listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
So how's everyone feeling about going out of the house? Sometimes the expectation of going out sometimes is, do you remember when we couldn't? And sometimes, do you remember how sometimes you were like,
Yes.
Oh, no, really? Oh, no. Like that?
Yeah, and now you feel guilty if you don't go to stuff. Like, oh no, I've become antisocial or a shut-in or something, and I should force myself to go out to more things. But then when I schedule some things, when I get to them, I'm like, I don't really want to go to this.
I know. I've seen a meme like that. It's like they asked me to do it when I was feeling outgoing.
Yeah.
And yes, that's me. I'm ready. And then all of a sudden, there it is, raining, and you're, phoning people going, oh, like if you want to cancel, that's like,
yeah.
I mean, I won't get mad at all. Like I get it. And yeah, anyway, I've just been thinking about that a little bit more. Maybe it's because we talked about it before, the weather is getting better, and I feel that there's going to be a higher expectation of leaving the house. And
well, now I find myself really having to think, because, nowadays also you have to buy tickets to things so far in advance usually. And I really have to stop and think and be like, what am I committing my future self to doing?
right?
Like, will I want to do this in September? And before, I would never like sit down and really contemplate stuff like that. I would just go ahead and do it and buy the tickets or whatever and not even worry about it. But now I'm just like, will future Andrea be really mad at past Andrea for buying these tickets?
There's a good chance. There's a very good chance. I saw a video the other day of people at a club, and it was this beautiful video of like a really full nightclub, and everyone looked so happy. And I was looking at it going, man, like, did I ever do that? Like, was
I
that
know.
something I did? Did I look that excited to be out? Because, man, oh man, if I get home and like imagine this, okay? It's a Friday night, and it's it's been looking like it's going to rain, but it hasn't rained. And you go shop, get some snacks and things, and you get inside the house, you close the door, and that's when the rain starts, and you can hear it, and it's starting to get dark, and you have no plans at all. I'm telling you. You should be able to bottle that feeling, and you would make so much money.
But do you think it's something that happened to us during the pandemic? Like, do you think like our personalities have changed? Or do you think we're just getting older? Or do you think society has fundamentally changed and everybody doesn't want to go out anymore? Or do you think it's just us?
I mean, I was a homebody from deep down inside all the time. But then I worked in careers where I had to either be at parties or host parties, which I don't know why I did that. I don't really do it that much anymore.
Yeah, how did that happen?
He says having last night hosted a wine dinner for 25 people. So well, for my client, not for me specifically. I didn't even get to drink.
Right.
I was like working. But why did I put myself in that situation? I hated social stuff even as a little kid. So where did that come from? I don't know. I'm a conundrum.
Yeah, because you actually, we haven't got to your bio, but you call yourself a gadabout.
I mean, it's professional because personally, I live on my couch. I sometimes don't even use my living room. I just live in my bedroom. It's great. But then events come and you put them in your calendar, and then you slowly get more and more anxious as they get nearer. And then if it's a personal event like a concert, you have to weigh like, how much should I spend on those tickets? Because I really don't feel like going out. I've dropped some stuff this year, and then I forced myself to do other things. Like I went to the Melissa Etheridge concert, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly. But the 3-4 hours leading up to it, I was convinced I was not going to go to that concert.
I was watching the on Netflix. Don't judge me. It was a dark moment. I was a little bored, and I saw the Robbie Williams documentary.
Oh no, I'm not judging. I'm not judging at all.
Okay, all right.
I am a little.
Okay, documentary. I really believe is in quotation marks, but you know what I'm saying. It was a story about Robbie Williams. So we're going to go through his life, and it starts out by him being at home, which is some beautiful estate somewhere, and he says, I never leave my house. I barely leave my bed. So the whole documentary is Robbie in his underpants and an undershirt, watching videos of himself on a laptop in his bed.
So best life Robbie is what we're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that is my goal. I would love to get to that period in my career, that point where I could just, let's do a documentary, but I'm not leaving my bedroom. I'm not putting on clothes. And just bring me my laptop. Yeah.
But so you watched this.
I did. There was even a scene where his daughter, he's got 4 kids, and his daughter, who's about like 8, I think, she says, Dad, and he said, come over. And she comes and gets into bed with him. And I'm thinking, I guess the whole family's on board with this. Like, you want to go see Dad.
But so what kept you watching?
What kept me watching? For a while, there was a bit of I'd always wondered, like what happened with Take That? I mean,
Fair.
I don't know if I would consider it one of the great questions of our world.
Maybe you were hoping for a little clip from the Rock DJ video, because that was a strong video. I enjoyed that video when it came out. Part of my Robbie worship phase. I actually have a friend who met him.
Oh, really?
Met him in a very inopportune way in a bathroom stall in London. They were. I can't remember which one of them was doing the drugs and which one of them was using the stall. But anyway, that's the story, and I can't go into too much detail about it, but it certainly piqued my interest about Robbie Moore. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, okay, we went to rehab with Robbie, and definitely, and life picked up for him and things, but I don't. It's just how I suppose I have a particular interest in like how people deal with fame. I think it's quite interesting,
Wait, so how long was this documentary?
Well, here's the thing. It was called Part 1.
Oh. If you tell me it is over an hour and a half, I'm going to flip my desk because this is so frustrating to me because there's this man who records this, I guess, documentary, quotation marks documentary, in his underwear on his bed doing nothing. Not really. It doesn't seem like much happens at all in this. And then yet, on this podcast, we spent like literally years trying to convince you to watch like shows like Deadlock that like have like teams of brilliant writers behind them. They take years to develop. It's like the most talented, people are working on them, and they create this masterpiece. And you watch like 10 minutes of the first episode, and you're like, no, I'm out. This is boring. I'm out.
I mean, does it star a seminal Gen X singer from a boy band? I don't know. If it doesn't, like that might be the draw.
I think at the end of the day, I was just looking for closure, for my own.
Much like Robbie was. Right? It's a full circle
like
moment.
Robbie was. Yes, exactly. And things happen where he's watching videos of himself. So like the story of Robbie Williams and, his relationship with Nicole Appleton, who, if I'm not wrong, is Canadian.
Yeah.
Am I?
I would not. No, I know. I
from the All Saints.
Right. Mm-hmm. All the All Saints. So
there was some memories. Yeah, one of the Oasis, right?
No, was it? Yeah, it was the Oasis. Yeah. Didn't 2 of them marry, the twins marry Oasis brothers or something weird like that at some point? It was the 90s. We don't remember, but we had bad hair and circular sunglasses. and the Appleton sisters were marrying the Oasis brothers.
It was such a time for, and I don't know if it'll, maybe it's coming back, but just such an interesting time of very, very big pants and very small shirts.
That's back. That is so back. The youths are doing it.
Yeah.
Crop tops with like parachute pants. It's a thing.
Yeah. I have seen a couple of people young, as you said, downtown, and I'm not going to criticize them. I mean, there's a certain look, it's kind of, why not look like
J-Lo's debut single, If You Had My Love? She looked good in that video.
Right?
Robbie Williams' Millennium came out that same year. Wow.
There we go.
Well, I mean, speaking of J-Lo and documentaries, celebrity documentaries.
I watched that too.
So.
I couldn't. I stopped watching, like I watched maybe, I don't know, half an hour, and I was like, I don't
So you
care.
watched The Thing, but you're talking about the making of video?
The making of video, the documentary, like behind the scenes, and I just it tailed off, and I was like, I'm not gonna waste any more time watching this. I love J-Lo. I'm a fan.
Yes, we know. Yep.
I've seen most of her movies. I enjoy her music. She's a fantastic dancer. But it just, I was not interested in this documentary at all. Did you find it compelling?
I turned it off too. I was with you. Yeah. This is a person who watched the 3 parts of David Beckham too. So,
wow.
3 parts.
See, this explains the Robbie Williams thing too. Your mind was in 90s England, basically. That was your pop culture of the 90s.
It's a golden time.
It really is.
I mean,
it really is.
It's musically, I'm not so sure stylistically, but some interesting style choices for
Absolutely.
sure. We're still living with the legacy of Blur. Look at, they tried to play Coachella, it didn't go well.
It did go well. The
Really?
Impromptu reunion of the Spice Girls at Posh's 50th birthday.
That went over very well.
They even had Ginger doing the moves from the dance to the song that she was not in. I thought that was really cool. Like Ginger was doing the same moves, but she never did that. She never did that song. She had already left the group. I know. Wow. That's what made
You've blown my mind. Blown my mind.
That is what happened to me on whatever day I saw it online. I was like, oh my God, she's doing the moves, but she wasn't in that video. It was amazing.
It was Stop, right?
Yes.
Wasn't it Stop right there? Thank you very much. Yeah, okay.
That's when they were down to 4.
I just never... Yeah. When 5 become 4. Sorry.
Wow, we're having a Spice Girls moment.
Well, I started with Robbie Williams, so I'm sorry. And yes, I apologize for my horrible taste in things. I mean, what can I tell you? If they make something, whatever, like on Netflix, and I've watched the Taylor Swift one. I will watch them all. Miss Americana, I think it was called. Watched it.
Well, I mean,
would probably watch it again.
If we go back to the fact that we were talking about 90s London and English culture, that kind of is a great segue for what we're doing today, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't even think of that. But look at
Neither did I, but it just happened.
Wow.
Kismet.
I'm so impressed.
Almost like meeting a movie star because she walks into your bookstore. It's kismet. It's just meant to happen.
Okay, we have to say what this is so I can get going because I got some thoughts. All right, well, I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And I'm Steven Schelling.
Welcome, Steven.
Thanks
for joining us.
Thank you.
We're so thrilled to have you on the podcast as always.
Happy to be here.
And now we have you on talking about something that is generally well liked and seen as, a good movie. So I hope you shall remember this.
I shall. It's certainly it's an up moment in our interactions when it comes to filmographies. We're definitely on a rise, but that's because we hit some lows in the past. So
just by measuring, yes.
I feel like we're still digging our way out of having you talk about having to watch Xanadu.
That was the one I was thinking about. Yeah, it's trauma.
Yeah. I do apologize. However, who else would we want to go through that experience?
Right?
Right?
If we're gonna trauma bond, let's do it between us,
Right?
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So today we're talking about 1999's Notting Hill, starring Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant. And it's the 25th anniversary of this classic rom-com, so we thought we'd revisit it. Lisa, do you want to read Steven's bio just for anyone
To refresh
who
my own memory of who I am as well.
hasn't heard him on our podcast? Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So Steven Schelling, as mentioned, a professional gadabout by trade, is a writer, editor, fashion stylist, and lover of period movies. Stephen is thus Xanadu.
Yes.
Right? Stephen is able to recreate Katharine Hepburn's entire Oscar-winning performance in the 1968 historical drama The Lion in Winter, and enjoys doing so whether or not anyone has asked him to. Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Stephen.
You know what? That should just be our Christmas episode this year, is Steven just doing that monologue.
Oh, I could. Which one? There's so
would
many.
pay for
There are
that.
so many wonderful monologues. The best one is "Oh, my woolly sheepdog." Yes, when she's talking to.
Are you sure that's not on Golden Pond?
No, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same sort of story, though. Aging couple fighting. No, it's very much the same. Only in The Lion in Winter, she's in prison because her husband's the king, and he could just toss her anywhere he wants to. So there's a little less mental.
Yeah.
We got to find out if this movie's in the public domain, and then we'll just produce like an audiobook of Steven.
Oh, that would be
doing
so
his best
much
Katharine
fun.
Hepburn.
Oh my gosh.
The moon will turn.
Or
blue
you could
with
play a
cold.
game.
Yes.
You could play a game called Guess the Monologue. For which Katharine Hepburn film is this?
That's another good one because I do know some of her other monologues, shockingly. So, Katharine Hepburn, though, does not appear in Notting Hill, which is an oversight.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I'll read the background of the movie in case anyone is unfamiliar. Notting Hill is a 1999 romantic comedy film directed by Roger Mitchell. The screenplay was written by Richard Curtis, and the film was produced by Duncan Kenworthy. It stars Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant, with Rhys Ifans, Emma Chambers, Tim McInerney, Gina McKee, and Hugh Bonneville in supporting roles. And oh my goodness, did Hugh Bonneville not look like so young in this movie?
He did
I
not
couldn't
look
believe it.
like the head of Downton Abbey, that's for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Released on May 21st, 1999, Notting Hill was well received by critics and became the highest grossing British film of all time. The film received 3 Golden Globe noms, 2 BAFTA nominations, and won a British Comedy Award and a Brit Award for its soundtrack. The movie grossed over $300 million worldwide. Wow.
All staggering information, really.
Yeah. Lisa, do you want to read the synopsis?
Sure. William Thacker is a London bookstore owner whose humdrum existence is thrown into romantic turmoil when famous American actress Anna Scott appears in his shop. A chance encounter over spilled orange juice leads to a kiss that blossoms into a full-blown affair. As the average bloke and glamorous movie star draw closer and closer together, they struggle to reconcile their radically different lifestyles in the name of love. That's beautiful. That's actually better than the film, but there you go.
You're giving away the ending.
Yeah.
So, had we all seen this movie before, like
Yes.
when it first came out?
I don't remember if I actually went to go see it in a theater. I don't remember my first, but I've seen it so many times because it's a staple, or was a staple, of sort of that Sunday afternoon cable television movie, universe where you would just flip channels, and at some point Notting Hill would be on, and you'd catch 15 minutes here, 20 minutes. I think that's how I've consumed it over the years, but I've seen the whole thing a few times. Like, I know it. So
And Stephen, do you look upon this film fondly? Like, do you think it's a good rom-com?
it's a fine rom-com, I'll put it that way. To me, it's just a less good sequel to Four Weddings and a Funeral. In my mind, I think Four Weddings and a Funeral is a much better film. And if it had had a bigger budget and, Julia Roberts, that could have been the biggest grossing British film of all time. I think it was just that they had a chance later on to redo the same sort of story, just flip it a little bit. And that's kind of what this is, right?
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. Lisa, what is your relationship with this film?
Right. So similar, like I saw it the first time and then it just seemed to be something that I've watched a few times. I don't really know why. I probably, if I can cast my mind back, I really loved Four Weddings and a Funeral. And I know we've done that. I've done that film on the podcast. And I still think it holds up as a weird, fun film. But Notting Hill feels to me like they did some kind of focus group on Four Weddings and asked them, what were the things you liked about it? And they were like, oh, Hugh Grant being really annoyingly shy and reticent and blinking a lot. A friend group, we really like that. And a beautiful American actress. Quirky friend group, yeah. But, yeah, and I have to say that this watching, I don't know what happened to me. I was just like, this is a terrible movie. This is really, really not holding together at all. I'm bored. It's odd. It's weirdly paced. There's no chemistry at all between people. I mean, it's shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I thought of it as like a charming rom-com with Julia Roberts, kind of, like it's kind of an inside joke that she's playing a movie star, and it's Hugh Grant in his prime kind of movie. But you're right. Like upon watching it this time, it seems so. And one of the things that was pointed out, I read before watching the movie that maybe I shouldn't, but the most annoying thing about this movie is that they play music that literally the lyrics say what that person is feeling, like for every scene, a dramatic scene in the movie. And it's like, as soon as you start listening for that, it's the most annoying
yes,
thing in the world.
Like the way they bookended it with Elvis Costello's, that's that She song, right? It's just like, is this a movie about her? Like, is that what this movie is about? Like this incredible goddess of a woman? Like that's very odd.
Yeah. And the other things too, like now we look a bit more critically on, these kinds of stories, and you realize it is just like some male writer's fantasy of like this average guy having like a movie star walk into his workplace and just fall in love with him. And, like, I don't know. It's, and that's just a bit of an exhausting storyline to have to watch in this day and age.
I gotta say, and with the exception of their overnight, where they had sex, the rest of the movie is real time. Like we're with them for as much time as they spend together, right?
Yeah,
in a weird way. Yeah. And
it seems like we're with them the entire time.
It just, and then I was thinking, for some reason that occurred to me today, and I was thinking about how, wow, we saw all of your interactions. Like all the time you spent together, we saw it. I can see nothing that would make her fall in love with this man. Like nothing. Yeah. And all I could see on his part was she's a beautiful actress. Like, that's it.
Yeah. But this movie had such a grip on people when it came out that, like, exploded because of the movie. It was kind of a working class place before the movie. And since the movie, it's become this really upscale, trendy place. Like, real estate is crazy expensive now. And, like, it's just, like, it's a completely transformed neighborhood because of this movie.
That is insane. That is so crazy. But it does make you think that, for like, if you live in a neighborhood, like, wouldn't it be great to have a rom-com called Strathcona or something from Vancouver, just to see what would happen?
Just to make everything even less affordable than it already is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and like people apparently go to that bookstore and there's like proposals happening there all the time.
Things like that.
Do they say I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy?
Absolutely.
Probably.
If you're flying all the way to London, you're gonna do the line, aren't you? I mean, I consider that the same people that like pumpkin spice lattes and put locks on tourist attractions for their forever love. It's those same people. I mean, bless them. Live their lives.
That's
and I did not know that people were going there for for proposals and Instagram moments. But I'm not surprised. I'm just glad that I don't know any of those people, and I'm sure the feeling's mutual. But yeah, the movie itself it was so, I guess at the time, I don't remember it being a cultural force, but in a way it must have been if it was winning all these awards and
made so much money.
It made so much money. It must have had some sort of, I can't put my finger on it, maybe because it was 1999 and I had a life back then. I don't know, but I just don't remember there being like a big fuss about it. I remember seeing some posters around, but I don't remember wanting to be first in line at the theater and thinking, oh, we should put a group of friends together and go see Notting Hill. Did either of you, either of you remember 1999 in terms of that film?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I do feel like I've watched it in the past and I liked it and thought it was kind of charming. And this time I was watching it and I thought, well, this is such an awkward film too. Everybody feels like they move really weird.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand that. I didn't understand her wardrobe. Like, even watching it now, like the sweater twin
She's a
set
movie
or whatever.
star.
Yeah, I know.
Why is she dressed like that?
I can't even. And like when she goes to that dinner party and she's got those weird braids in her hair, I'm like, there was a moment where he says to her at the hotel, I've got a dinner party, and she says, I'll come. So within that span, it felt like it was only a couple of hours, right? Because he was at the hotel and then she was at the dinner party. In that space, she had time to like do that to her hair. Why? Like in what world was that?
Maybe she thought that's how normal people do things because she's been a movie star. She's out of touch with reality. I'm giving the writers way too much credit on this, but
there were just scenes in it that felt like that weird scene at that dinner party where they had the leftover brownie and everyone had to say sad stories. Like, why would that be fun? Who wants to go to that dinner party?
Absolutely not. And then the weird thing is also the actress who is in the wheelchair, which I remember right after that, she did some other stuff. She doesn't use a wheelchair. It was just such a weird thing to have in the movie. I mean, it's great that they had that representation, but they could have found an actress who actually uses a wheelchair. Maybe why put an able-bodied actress in a wheelchair in a tertiary role? I think her only point was so that they could, during the not car chase, but when they're trying to get there in time, she could use the disabled parking, or she used the wheelchair. It's like, oh, you have to let us through, and that way it was a plot point. Right. But that seems like a lot to put your character in a wheelchair and have a car accident prior to the movie just so she can help Hugh Grant find Julia at the end. Doesn't it? It's
part of it though. Doesn't he kind of say to Julia Roberts when she's freaking out about the press being at their door, and he's kind of like, you don't understand what real problems are. Like, my friend has real problems. Like, this is nothing.
Yeah, and it felt like they put her in a wheelchair so they would have some storyline in there that made us feel sorry for her. Why? Why would we? Like, there wasn't a moment where I felt sorry for her. I thought she was having a lovely life. Husband that loved her, beautiful home, good job. I mean, good for, like, why did that have to keep being repeated?
Yeah. It was the 90s. I don't know.
Is that our default now, no matter what bad thing is happening?
It
was the 90s.
I mean, that's how I look back at my life. It was the 90s. I made poor choices were made. I mean, what are you going to do?
I have two words for you, Dave Matthews.
Well, I mean, like, this movie was in the middle of, like, Julia Roberts was having an incredible run of hit movies. Like, there was My Best Friend's Wedding in 97.
Great movie. Love that movie. Yeah.
This came out in 99, as well as Runaway Bride. And then Erin Brockovich was 2000.
Which is another Sunday afternoon cable, on cable movie and if you still have cable, on any given Sunday, you will find Erin Brockovich playing somewhere in North America on a channel usually in the upper hundreds. But still, it's playing.
Yeah. But this essentially was like, like her time as the highest, like, one of the highest paid actresses in Hollywood. And I think Hugh Grant was more on his way up at that point. he had done Four Weddings and a Funeral in 94, and then Sense and Sensibility, but like Notting Hill was kind of like the next big movie he did after that.
When was his huge public embarrassment? Was it before this film or after this film?
Oh no, that was, I think, after
Was
that.
it after?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah, and then he went and did Love Actually with Richard Curtis too, right?
Right.
So they
Yes.
really have quite a thing together.
Yes.
I will say, I was quite taken with his hair.
He's always had good hair. Like early Hugh had
Right?
really, really good hair.
I think you do have to give him credit. Like, he's almost like, like the Rachel was for Jennifer Aniston, like changed hair for women in the 90s. Like, I think he's had a hair influence for men.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I just think there was something. I don't know when it happened too. It was like some sort of creeping thing when we began to learn that, Hugh Grant was not this charming, sweet,
Self-effacing British lad. Yeah. Well,
No,
it turns
at
out he was
all.
much more of a lad than we thought, I think is what happened.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, things
I mean,
went.
we found out he
in
was
very
human.
different
Oh no. But yeah, he wasn't nearly as he wasn't nearly as lovable and self-effacing in real life, which it'd be hard to stay that naive and lovable and self-effacing if you're a millionaire movie star, right? It's kind of tough.
Yeah.
I get, yeah.
I remember at one point reading a story, like Jon Stewart said at one point, like Hugh Grant was like the worst.
Didn't he
guest,
ban him
like,
from
in
the
terms
show
of-
after an appearance? He's
Yeah.
like, he's never coming on the show again.
on the Daily Show? Yeah, and I remember being very shocked by that. Like, it just, I don't know. It's I guess I can, see how your public persona, you're not always going to live up to a public persona or what you're pigeonholed as an actor or whatever. But
No, I know.
I kind of didn't expect him to be like a worst guest scenario type person.
I think that this movie, Notting Hill, though, could have benefited from a little bit more darkness. Like, we talked about Four Weddings and a Funeral in the beginning. I think that Kristen Scott Thomas's character stopped it from being too treacly because she was just this bitter, angry, hilariously bitter and angry upper class, let's use the word you want. But she was just, she had this side to her that was very prickly. And there's no one prickly in Notting Hill except for, the bad guys who are her publicists and the people around her and her cameo boyfriend, which I know.
Alec
Yeah.
Baldwin.
But that was a big deal because he was not credited. So it was a surprise for a lot of people, right?
Oh,
Just like in
wow.
The Glass
Okay.
Onion, Hugh Grant playing James Bond's boyfriend there.
Yeah,
that was a huge,
that's right.
That was a huge get too, right? That was an Easter egg. So only if you saw the movie did you know that Benoit Blanc's boyfriend was being played by our dear man here.
Yes.
So, just stunt casting. That was a good piece of stunt casting. But that was the only
He
thorny
really-
parts were the nasty people from her business that were around her, right? The people that depended on her for their living, and then the guy that she was dating because it was a matter of convenience.
And she really was just a girl looking for a boy, right? That
Also,
would,
in real life, she did pull a Notting Hill. She married Danny Moder 2 years later.
with the cameraman. Yeah,
and she dumped
exactly. Yeah.
Benjamin Bratt and married Danny Moder.
Yeah.
So she kind of lived out in real life. Just like Runaway Bride
I
was her
hadn't
real
thought of
life
that,
before that when she left people at the altar twice in a row.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe she just likes movies about herself. Very, very poorly disguised movies about herself.
Well, because also wasn't she married to Lyle Lovett
Like a
for
week.
a short period of time?
Very short. Yeah.
And then she left Kiefer at the altar.
with Jason Patrick, right?
I mean, and considering what we know about Kiefer now, I'm surprised he was sober enough to realize she had left him at the church. I'm surprised he made it to the church.
Okay, so this is what it says in her Wikipedia. From 1998 to 2001, Roberts dated actor Benjamin Bratt. Roberts and her husband, cameraman Daniel Moder, met on the set of her film The Mexican in 2000 while she was still dating Bratt. At the time, Moder was married to Vera Steinberg. There were accusations of husband stealing. He filed for divorce a little over a year later, and after it was finalized, he and Roberts wed on July 4th, 2002, at her ranch in Taos, New Mexico. Together, they have 3 children, twins, a daughter and a son, and a son born in November 2004 and another son born in June 2007.
So
I
it
mean,
did
that
last.
marriage has lasted a long time.
It has, yes.
I'd like to know if it influenced
And
her.
they're very, 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 very private because you can barely find pictures of their children, pictures of them together.
I'd love to know, though, if making the movie influenced her. If she just sort of was like, I need to find a real guy.
Ooh.
And always had that in the back of her mind. And Benjamin Bratt never stood a chance, really. You know?
Yeah. He was the Alec Baldwin of this situation.
Yeah. Which is unfair to Benjamin Bratt. I mean, really. It's very unfair to poor Benjamin Bratt.
I didn't know we were going to go this direction with the podcast.
I wasn't aware that we were going to psychoanalyze Julia Roberts either, but these things they're just right there in front of us.
I know. It's a whole new side of this film that I just wasn't anticipating.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that we are slowly remembering how much everybody was invested in her love life in the 90s.
Well, she gave us a lot of material.
She did.
You know, I mean,
I think she's quiet now to make up
flying under the radar, but
she's quiet now to make up for the past. I had a question for both of you because, media adjacent and media jobs that we've all had. The one thing I appreciate about Notting Hill is the junket scene. It's pretty bang on.
Yeah.
It is pretty. That, by the way, guys, that's what it's like out there. At least it was back then.
Yeah.
The only thing being, Horse and Hound would not get a one-on-one with a star of her magnitude. They would be in the big ballroom, and you'd have a big table.
Do you know how big Horse and Hound is in the? I would think that it has a huge readership in the UK.
It's a little nichey, but yeah. I mean, I would be at junkets and you knew who the people were who were getting the one-on-ones. It was your New York Times. It was your Washington Post. The Globe and Mail had to sit next to me, an Urban Weekly sometimes, and they were not happy about it because they were in the big room and they weren't getting the one-on-ones. So it just really depends on also the audience for the movie. But I did find that part to be, it's true. That's how it goes. It's, I liked that part.
Yeah. I did get that familiar feeling of when he was like thrown into rooms with to interview others that he wasn't expecting. That just feeling of terror in your heart when you know you have to like kind of do a song and dance because you're completely unprepared to talk to this person. Yes, I felt that familiar twinge of terror in my heart during that scene.
I feel like the first time I have I just have to admit it. I feel like the first time I saw this movie, I laughed really hard with that Horse and Hound scene. I feel like I did. I mean, I was trying this time to count the number of laughs. I suppose it's hard because I have seen it before. So, but I laughed only one time. And it was, I think, the only time that Hugh Grant was very assertive. It was just when Julia Roberts is giving her speech. And that man comes into the bookstore and he just looks at him and goes, absolutely not. Out. No way. Like just that made me laugh for some reason. It was just so funny. But I don't think I laughed. I mean, I certainly did not laugh about his roommate. I mean, that was the comic relief? Like
it made me miss Scarlett from 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Right? That was a fun roommate.
But then you had his sister playing the same part, right?
The whole thing was just, I don't know. I still feel that it was just sort of a poor reflection of a previous film with bigger stars. And I think, and they were calling back. I mean, Simon Callow played himself in Notting Hill, who played the funeral in 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Like, he was there as Simon Callow, actor. Yeah. Right? It was so, they knew what they were doing, I think.
I guess I'm wondering, too, like, part of me was watching this movie, and I guess, well, Andrea, you said it, that it was a male fantasy that a woman would just walk into your bookstore and then fall madly in love with you.
Well, but there were so many, specifically a beautiful movie star.
Yeah. But part of me was just like, why was this movie, like, where did this idea come from? Like, why a celebrity? Like, why? Like, I just, after watching it for a while, I was like, I'm not sure I really understand what the purpose of this movie is. Does that make sense?
It's the purpose of it is that it's a male fantasy wish fulfillment movie that like an average guy can just be living his life and some beautiful movie star can just accidentally cross paths with him and fall madly in love with him for unknown reasons and unknown, non-specific, unexplained reasons. Not only fall in love with him instantly, but also be willing to be kind of strung along for some period of time, get rejected.
And then move to England. Who wants to move?
I know.
Like, she lives in Beverly Hills, presumably.
Yeah.
You know, or as the case may be, a ranch in New Mexico. Why are you moving to England? Like, what?
I mean, it was London, 1999, Lisa. I mean,
okay, rule Britannia.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Good old cool Britannia.
Yeah, that's it. Cool
yeah.
Britannia. Yeah.
But that roommate character of Spike reminds me of Colin from Love Actually, the Colin storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
Like,
yeah.
I guess there's a couple of tropes, and Curtis is not afraid to run him back and forth as often as he possibly can.
No, he's
He's
not.
good to go.
Yeah.
He's got his formula, and it works. So, I mean...
Well, it's good to know that things picked up for Rhys Ifans as well, right? And we just saw him in Naiad, and he was so good.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, there's been, Harry Potter? Did that come up? Was he in Harry Potter too?
I think he was. And many, many things.
Yeah. Like Gary Oldman I think
he was in Harry Potter. He was in...
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the Spider-Man movies.
Oh, okay.
The King's Man, Elementary, House of the Dragon. Yeah, he's been working steadily.
Right. Oh, okay. He's been doing fine. Yeah. Yeah.
He's been doing great.
Good for him.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I just I don't know. I had a bad feeling going into this that I was not gonna remember it well. And it proved to be right. It's just, I just don't have patience for Richard Curtis stories.
It's over for me with him. Yeah. I don't know who I was that this was funny. Like, what was I doing? Help me here. What kind of person sat through Notting Hill the first time and was like, now that's a picture? You know, like, was that me?
It's I mean, the fact that you don't remember means probably not. It was probably like, oh, that's okay. You weren't like a devoted, there was not a portion of your life where Notting Hill posters were on your wall, right? The famous Hugh Grant walking in front of that, I think it's a blue building. I seem to remember that. I don't know why.
No, he's walking past a poster of her face,
right?
Isn't he?
But there's a blue building in it, maybe.
Maybe that makes sense.
Well, I think the bookstore is famous for having a blue door. Yeah. But I mean, I feel the same way. I felt when I rewatched High Fidelity for the first time in a long time. Ooh. I used to think like High Fidelity was a hilarious, really good movie that I enjoyed in my youth. And then I watched it like a few years ago and I was like, this movie's so, like, he's so mean and he hates everybody. And what's funny about that? Like, he's just an angry, bitter misogynist.
I'm guessing for a time there was a golden period for that where it seemed somehow, yeah, that makes sense. I'm angry and bitter too. And now you get to this point where you're like, you've already had Tony Soprano, what's his name? Walter White. We've had Don Draper. And that's just three big ones, but we've had so many. There's that Loudermilk. I don't know if you've...
I started watching a little bit of it, and I was like, this guy's too angry. I can't watch this. I can't.
Yeah.
It brought back shades of High Fidelity.
Yeah, no, it does. Absolutely.
Like, he just goes around to coffee shops and yells at people.
Yeah, I know.
That's the whole premise of the show.
Yeah. I know. I don't, so when I rewatch these movies, I mean, I will give the fact that Hugh Grant was not angry, and but he was passive to a degree that I just think you would have, like, walked through him like a ghost. There was so little of substance to this guy. Like, if you asked me, does he have hobbies? Does he like certain foods? Has he traveled? I know nothing about this man.
No, he's not dynamic or
Nope.
interesting in any way. And it's like, it just makes zero sense when you're watching it now that a movie star walks into his bookstore and is like, gives one look at him and is like, I'm in love.
Yeah.
Because there's like really nothing else. He gives her nothing.
He gave her a free book. But okay. Anyway, that bugged me because like she could afford the book. But whatever, make yourself.
It's like those.
That's
Make
the
yourself
celebrity
poor. Yeah,
influencer
exactly.
economy.
I know.
It's like
Yeah.
those Oscar gift bags. You're like, they don't need a gift bag. They're millionaires. Don't give them stuff at the Oscars. And then they stopped because the government started making them pay taxes on the stuff they were getting. So,
Really? Oh,
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
because some of the prices was
okay,
like a $500,000 gift bag. So the government was like, that's like income. You pay for those things. We get our 50% off the top. And the IRS doesn't play around. So.
No. But also, one plot point I'd forgotten, and it's probably not that big a deal, but it really was weird. What was with that Chagall painting? Why would she give that to him? He's got a perfectly nice print in his home, right? Like, what was that about?
Well,
She could give him the real thing since she wanted to prove that she was the real thing. I think I'm getting too philosophical tonight. I was even going to go into a thing about how she's making a space movie. So yeah, he's a cipher because he's just reflecting. He's getting his light off of reflecting from her sort of thing. So he doesn't have to have a personality. But even that's a lot. Maybe she just wanted to get him something really nice. And she runs in circles where, Oprah buys people really nice gifts. If you go, if you're friends with these people, buy each other houses and things like that as gifts. So maybe to her, it was just the kind of gift she'd give a friend. Maybe.
But in 1999, that would still be $1 million painting, no?
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Chagall. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And like one of his most famous.
yeah, I'm wondering how she bought it. Because doesn't it belong to a museum? Like, how do you...
What are you, Indiana Jones here?
This isn't the Thomas Crown affair. You don't just get to take art out of the museum.
Yeah.
she just like was filming at the museum and just took it off the wall on her way out.
Exactly. They let her do it because she's pretty.
And she just travels with it?
She happens to have a couple of Chagalls. She just leaves them around as change for people. Tips.
Or like, but I mean, even if it was hers legitimately, and she decided, but you're just gonna bring like $1 million painting into the airport with you, and bring it on the plane and put it in the overhead. Like, I just how does that work?
Yeah, and she just shows up. I mean, just that. Oh, what? And I don't know. Like, she couldn't call like once throughout the year. Like, it didn't. What was going on? Like, what? What? Not once. I mean, and that I did think I could have that scene to show us that a year had passed.
The
with
seasons
Hugh Grant
walking through the Notting Hill Market.
The seasons, yeah, that was fine. We didn't need the Ain't No Sunshine Bill Withers song at all. I agree. That was too on the nose. But I just thought it was kind of clever. But
I would have preferred the Bangles
visualness
cover
of
of Hazy Shade of Winter for that scene, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, it has to have lyrics that match
exactly his inner
dialogue
spirit
that's going
yes.
on. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
His inner monologue. It's like, the directions to the music supervisor were like, bring me back a song with these exact words, because that's what he's thinking in his head. Otherwise, it's not making the cut.
yeah, it was very, and why? And I'm sorry. I'm pinching between my nose. Why would he spend a year mooning after this woman? She walks into his shop, lays it out, and he says, nah.
Yeah.
Because he's a man, so he has to say the meh, right? If we're
because
still going with
he
the
has
fantasy,
to be,
right? He's got to have the upper hand, right? He's tamed this. I guess
so.
He's technically Shakespeareanly tamed the savage breast, right? He's got the biggest movie star in the world coming to beg him to take her back. He really has won the straight guy lottery of
for
fantasy.
Completely unknown, unexplained reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah, none. Yeah, just Yeah. Oh, you'll break my heart. Okay. So like the way you've already been for the past year, apparently you can handle that. So, why would you, and then just so you can have like you said, a car racing around London and then another press conference, like what? And then such an embarrassing press conference. I was cringing. Like,
Yeah.
again, when I saw that the first time, did I think, that looks right? That looks like. That's how they treat.
Remember the days when there used to be press that went to and
there's that
like
too. Yeah,
junkets like that.
But I don't think I've ever been. Oh no, I have been to a junket like that. That was more like a sporting after the sporting event type of thing, where all the media are facing a dais at the front. I have done that once, but in my entire career, I've only done something like that one time. So I found that junket or that press conference at the end, that one didn't make sense to me because
no. But and also when she goes out the door and those cameramen are all there, how many how much press?
Well, the British press, like the British tabloids.
But that many?
Back then? Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow, no, the British press back then was notorious they were the worst. Like at least in Hollywood.
Yeah.
The publicists work with them. The British tabloid press, the publicists work with them, but they're like they were considered the worst in the world or the best, depending on which way.
Yeah, I just didn't think there would be that many, but I guess there were that many publications.
Look at old shots of. I mean, Princess Di died in '96, but just look at her last year and how many cameras there were following her around. I'm not saying that Julia Roberts' character is Lady Di level, but she's not far off because she's the most famous woman in the world now. Julia Roberts' character is the number one actress in the world. So it's kind of, I could see that definitely happening, that level of chaos.
There you go. All right.
Hugh Grant's character, I guess, were to ascertain from the postscript scenes, they end up married and having a child, and it's like, I guess he did okay, because at this point he has to know that his travel bookstore is going to be completely obsolete within.
Well, he wouldn't be able to run it
a few years of this movie
by people hoping to see her, right?
Yeah, but that's the idea of a travel bookstore too.
It's cute, isn't it? It's so twee.
Very 90s. Yeah, yeah. Like I can't even imagine how would you find enough books to stock that store.
For travel books? Yeah, I know. I don't. It's like a section in the store.
Yeah.
I don't. And then I just got irritated. By the end, I was just so irritated. Like everything, like how uncomfortable she looked on that wooden bench.
Yes.
Who would lay like that?
I thought that was strange.
And then he's got that book. Like what?
And so that would mean the way I looked at that bench was weird too. Seeing it more recently. I hadn't thought of this before, but she's the biggest movie star, assumedly in the world, and so there's an even bigger story going on that she left her career, maybe for this guy, or she's taking time off, and she's on a bench that looks super uncomfortable. So that's probably a public park. What is she doing in a public park in London?
Like, why isn't she being mocked there?
That should be her backyard. And at first I thought, that must be their new backyard or the giant house she bought next door to Madonna's or whatever. But why would she have a very uncomfortable piece of outdoor furniture in her own home? It makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
From an aesthetic and from a comfort standpoint. Both.
Yeah, and if she's taking this year off, why do we see her at some gala? Like, what's that?
Oh, it's probably one of her charities.
Getting out of the car.
It's probably one of her charity galas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. All right, I'll give her that.
Okay.
I'll give
she did that one for the children,
well,
right? Back to Robbie Williams doing it for the kids. His duet with Kylie Minogue.
Maybe?
Okay, so Lisa, does this movie pop more for you than the Robbie Williams documentary?
Oh, no, I'm going to go with Robbie Williams documentary. Yeah, I'm going to suggest the Robbie Williams documentary over rewatching Notting Hill. Yeah.
Ooh, okay, what about you, Steven?
I mean, I've seen both. I don't think I would probably recommend Robbie's documentary over Notting Hill just because it's more interesting in that I've seen it less. And it's less maddening because, there's no reason to be angry at it on any level. Whereas I think watching Notting Hill now, you have a lot of reasons you could be angry or just upset with something that you thought was anodyne and is actually quite not necessarily, it's not great. It's kind of skeezy. It's kind of slimy. and also inscrutable, right? Why is she doing this? Why would this happen? What's going on here? Right?
It's puzzling. It's a very puzzling film.
Yeah, I agree. This movie
Does it pop for you?
sadly doesn't pop. No.
No pops for me. None.
Even though there's like on paper, it's like, ooh, London, ooh, rom-com, ooh, peak Julia Roberts and peak Hugh Grant. This can't go wrong, but it does go wrong.
Yeah,
Very wrong.
just watch Four Weddings and a Funeral again. If you're feeling the itch,
Do it.
If that itch is there, just do that.
I would agree. And at least with Four Weddings and a Funeral, the parts that are bad are so bad, we all know they're bad, and we can laugh along with them. Right at this point, is it raining?
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed. The line delivery of the final line of the film is the worst line delivery in the history of cinema, and it's fun. Like you can look at it that way. But the "I'm just a girl" is so earnest and treacly. Like it's not. There's no fun in it, right?
And that blue knit twin
oh my
set to
god.
me is so
remember Ice Blue was a thing though.
unforgivable.
Ice Blue was a thing that year.
Oh,
It really was. That whole Ice Blue. What were we thinking?
I do not know.
Okay, well, we like to leave the podcast with things we do actually like and recommend. Lisa, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think this just launched last week, and I've already binged all of Reindeer Baby on Netflix.
Ooh. Yeah, I've heard about that. It's supposed to be really good.
It's amazing, and I haven't been quite as floored by a show in maybe ever. I don't know. It just stunned me.
That's a great endorsement.
It went in directions I was not expecting. I knew what the premise was. I thought, and I almost bailed on the first episode because I was like,
because that's what you do.
I do that. Yeah, I do that. Yeah. But I went
to bring
back.
it full circle.
Yeah, I went back, and I'm really glad I did. And I can't wait for lots more people to see it so I can talk about it with them.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll even do it on this podcast.
Yeah, it is stunning. It really is. Yeah.
Well, I want to watch it for sure. Steven, what are you recommending this week?
One thing people might not know about me is I've become in my older ages now a firm fan of nature programming. I don't know why, but I find the camera works amazing. I always wonder, how did they do that? But then the narrator's voice is always so soothing, and I just enjoy, the BBC, Richard Attenborough being the king of all nature documentary type programming. But there's a new one out on Netflix called Our Living World. And I swear to God, Cate Blanchett's voice as the narrator is one of the most intoxicating things. I don't understand what the feelings I'm having are, but they're very different. And it's so soothing and so calming but she's giving it her acting. You can just hear where she's putting some stuff in, but it's just so nice. And you rarely get a woman narrating any sort of Earth style documentary. It's usually, again, Attenborough or Sisko from Deep Space Nine did one, or just some Shakespearean actor. And to have a woman do
Isabella Rossellini.
hers was a little different, right? I mean, hers was slightly,
okay.
It was a little bit more, risque and experimental. This is a straight up BBC style 4 episodes. The world is linked. The world's in crisis. Look at these cute animals. Oh no, is the mammal going to get eaten? That, because you're always worried about the mammal. You never worry about the lizards or anything else.
I don't like seeing animals
I don't like
getting
animals. No,
eaten.
They don't
do I.
show that. So this is also, I think, family friendly. But I just need to say, Cate Blanchett's voice in this is a revelation. It's just, I don't know. Check it out. Listen, maybe watch episode 1 for 15 minutes and just go, yeah. She's doing a really good job of this. And I was shocked. And I don't know if I was shocked. I just wasn't expecting it. And I was very pleasantly surprised. And again, I'm still processing the emotions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow, that's big. I'm going to recommend, I'm still watching BritBox shows, and I'm going to recommend this other, last week I did The Repair Shop, and this week I want to do another kind of soothing, non-scripted show. It's called Make It at Market, and it's basically this show where there's crafters from around Britain who are just like hobby crafters come to this tent where there are like professionals who do what they do, like glass blowing or pottery or whatever. And they get like coached into growing their hobby into a business. And like they get like feedback, like help with their business plans, help with their marketing and stuff like that. And you just watch this person like grow into an entrepreneur. And it's just like a very gentle, satisfying journey every like a 1 hour show.
So no one gets cut.
And you see
like
someone
you're glass blowing. Sorry,
No,
Steve, you're
exactly.
out. Right?
No,
Yeah.
like, and you just see people who like want to weave willow and make, you know, do it for their living and make like reindeer out of willow. And it's just like so endearing. And it's so nice to see, you know, when they start making their first sales and stuff. Like it's just a
That is
nice,
delightful.
soothing, gentle watch. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Yeah.
That
okay,
sounds like
I
the
better know.
perfect thing to do when not leaving your home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Crafting. Probably a little more satisfying than watching Robbie Williams, but
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. Even
Yeah,
at this
maybe.
age, he's still got something. It's still there. You could see it.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's there. It's there.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast,
pleasure.
Steven. You're
Thank you
a,
so much.
a joy and a pleasure as always.
Always. Yes.
If you would like to contact us, you can email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com or reach us on the social medias.
Where are we? I guess we're in
Like
still
a
different
pop
places.
yeah. We're on
Yeah.
Instagram. We're on
We're
Twitter.
and exactly. And usually though, our AW would AWs there would keep that up. So like don't
Yeah.
expect much during this
Right.
time.
Yeah.
But you could still rate and review you guys 5 stars, 5 stars,
Just-
right?
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
This is why you guys keep
And-
calling me
and
back.
we-
I remember the rate and review parts. That's it.
You do. And
Thank
do you
you.
remember that Andrea Gin is our producer and co-host?
Yes,
here?
I did remember that, but you beat me to it.
Yes. Oh, you'll get another opportunity, believe me.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.